It's hard to imagine what Stafford was like 111 years ago when the church first began. In the early 1900s, Stafford people traveled from place to place by horse and buggy and on foot. The Road 610 was a dirt road with little traffic. Can you imagine that? In 1907, 7 people had a vision to start a new church right here on 610 to reach beyond what they could see or even imagine. It's vision that gets you where you are to where you need to be. Vision helps you to see what could be. But 111 years ago, it had been hard to see what could be or even what would be right here in Stafford. They just knew God said go, and they started a church. Little did they know that in 1942, Quantico would become the crossroads for the Marine Corps. And FBI would begin their expansion right here, changing the face of Stafford to begin a catalyst of growth right here, becoming one of the fastest growing counties in the country, with 75% of Stafford population living right here in North Stafford. One thing is for sure though, even back then, Mount Ararat had a vision and courage to be 4-1 more. Mount Ararat began meeting in 1907, but the first building didn't happen until 1920, after the congregation grew to 50 people. This faith step allowed the church to reach more and more families and people. In 1958, they built this chapel to reach and connect with hundreds more. By 1990, the chapel was busting at the seams. Mount Ararat stepped out on faith, purchased 25 acres, and in 1994 built this multi-purpose room that we worship in today. Mount Ararat stepped way beyond what seemed possible, and God grew Mount Ararat to reaching 1,000 more. It could have been tempting for this 90-year-old church to rest and believe that it was good enough. Man, we've got worship space, hundreds of people saying yes to Jesus, and each year seeing this great reputation in the community. It'd have been easy to rest on the past. God was leading them out to more. My family arrived here in the fall of 2002 to join this 4-1 more vision to reach people far from God and to make a difference in the world. We focused on that next generation, adding preschool and kids space, and we updated our worship auditorium and guest services and student ministry space and next step rooms with outsiders in mind. This year, Mount Ararat celebrates 111 years as a church. Aren't you glad that people before us were 4-1 more? They prepared a way for us, and now it's our time to take another step of faith. The definition of faith is found in Hebrews 1:1:1. Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. The world says seeing is believing. You gotta see it before you can believe it. But the Bible takes this idea and flips it upside down. It says, no, believing is seeing. You gotta believe it first before you're ever going to see it. I wonder if the church back in 1907 could have imagined the Mount in the future. Did that group of 7 really believe that one day this church, Mount Ararat, would reach 3,000 people worshiping each Sunday? Once again, our history reminds us that we are not here for us. Our vision is for the one. We're here to worship the one. We're here to reach the one. We're here to be one. This year, the Mount begins in Fredericksburg, just like she did in 1907. Who will God reach through the Mount in Fredericksburg? Can you see it? This December, we're going to move into a space that used to sell motorcycles. Now we're going to be leading people to Jesus. Can you imagine hundreds of people worshiping and trusting Jesus? Can you imagine people being baptized and kids and students worshiping and loving each other and making a difference all across Fredericksburg? Can you picture people being rescued from addictions and marriages being restored and the lonely finding family? See, sometimes it's important to be reminded of what God has done to gain courage again as we take another faith step forward. Listen to David and Lucia Shropshire's story. They were having challenges in their marriage and both were far from God. Yet through an invitation, they walked into our 100-year-old church to discover a God and a church that's 4-1 more. Listen as David and Lucia realize that they were the one.
Before we came to Mount Ararat, our life was pretty hectic. We got married really young. I was 19 and he was 20. Right after we got married, we had a daughter, and he was in the Marine Corps, and I moved to a new area, and so things were pretty hectic, not only in life, but in our marriage. while he was deployed in Japan back in 2014, a friend of ours invited me to come to Mount Ararat. And after about 2 months of like dodging them, I'm like, I'm Catholic, I can't go to a Baptist church, like I'd burn, like I can't do that. And so I gave it a try, and I came here. My daughter went upstairs to Quest, and by the end of the service, I had such a great experience, and then we get in the car and she's singing songs about Jesus. So I just kept coming. And then I invited my husband when he got back from Japan.
Lucia was like, you should come to church this Sunday. And I was like, I just got back. I came and it was amazing. I felt like I was in a gospel concert. When I first came here, I thought I was like, okay, we gotta get tickets and go to concession stands. It was very welcoming, so it helped me drop my guard down a lot. And the series was Watch Your Mouth. It was, it's more about just swearing. It's just that, the things that you say is the actions that you do. So, and I noticed that a lot of things that I do, I base it off of emotions. And from there, it just hit me dead on. And I was like, there's no possible way that anyone would know that. That's what made me a true believer, that God is real and God is here for me and God is here to say it to me face to face, to say that I forgive you. I didn't even remember raising my hand. Definitely a life changer for me. And people now see it. I see it. My wife reminds me every day that she sees it. God woke me up real hard, so.
I was ready to get baptized within 6 months of starting to come to Mount Ararat, but I held out. I wanted it to be an experience for our family to do together.
To see that I'm doing it, my family followed, and that really sparked it for me. It's me telling God, like, I'm in it all the way, and I'm with you to the end.
Life here at the Mount has definitely transformed our lives and our family in a number of different ways. It's definitely helping us be better partners to one another and be better, parents to our kids. 4-1 More to me means that you do whatever you can to get that one more person to believe and love Christ. I had the opportunity to kind of just see that in fruition with my baby sister, who was not a practicing Christian. She got baptized during one of the spontaneous baptisms last year, and she was my one more. And so that's something that's always going to be imprinted in my heart, that God and this church just gave me that opportunity to reach that one person. Our life group, the Harrow Home Group, got to shout it out. Joining that home group, as nervous as we were, to take that step after he went through Alpha last year, it was by far like one of the best decisions we ever did make, and I can't see our life without them.
It's crazy that I only known, this group for going on 2 years. Mm-hmm. Going on 2 years, and they've been more committed and dedicated than friends I had for 10 years.
Many areas need the Mount. I mean, if the Mount could just expand and replicate itself in every city of the United States of the world, it would be the absolute most incredible thing. We probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for Mount Ararat.
Honestly, I couldn't thank this church enough, and even with that being said, I couldn't even thank God enough for changing me the way they did.
I still walking through those doors was probably one of the best decisions I ever made.